Hello, Sanbonani Molweni, and welcome to Money Smart Week 2024 under the theme of Protect Your Money, Secure Your Future. Well, today I will be having a conversation with a man who knows all about cybercrime, scams, and fraud. So stay tuned because you will learn so much about how to protect yourself from these nasty criminals. My name is Samke Mhlongo, and I am an entrepreneur, speaker, and author. But today I am your host as we talk all things cybercrime. In this world where we are doing more of our shopping and our banking and even connecting with family and friends online, we run the risk of falling victim to online scams and cybercrime. And joining me for this conversation is Sthembiso Nyandeni, who is Head of Investigations at the Liberty Group. Hi, Sthembiso, and welcome to this conversation.
Hi, Samke. Glad to be here. Thank you for the nice welcome.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you for helping us to actually speak to and educate our audience on cybercrime, scams, and fraud. Now, before we get into the details of these three areas, perhaps you can give us a high-level description of why it is so important that we have this conversation, especially in this time post-COVID, where we are doing so much more online.
I think for me, it's a normal thing that we live in a digital age. I mean, our kids as young as 10 or 9 are on their cell phones and they're chatting, and all our information is stored on our devices, to the point where we have even our cards on our devices, and we use our devices to pay, we use them to interact, we use them to share information about ourselves, we use them to share information on social media about our likes and our dislikes. And all of that availability of information makes it easier for fraudsters to then collect information on us and create a profile on us. And it's easy for me to rob you if I know you.
Right.
And most of the information that we have about ourselves, we put it out freely on social media, right? And even the ones that we don't put out freely. If you look in the past, this year alone, we've had credit bureaus that have been hacked. You have information that is supposed to be confidential information that has already been leaked to the public. And that kind of enriches and enhances our profiles out there for scammers and fraudsters to then attack us. And for them, it's much more easy because if I'm attacking you behind a computer, rather than putting a ski mask and going into a bank, it poses less risk for me. It's much more easier to hide behind a computer than it is to hide if I'm carrying a gun and walking into a bank to rob it. So it's made our lives easy, yes, but it's also made it easier for scammers and fraudsters to actually get to know who we are and get to pretend they're us and get to steal from us.
Wow. And you're absolutely right. We do give out a lot of our information online. I've seen people that will tweet a bank saying, I've got a problem or a situation that hasn't been resolved. This is my name. This is my ID number on Twitter, on Facebook. And that makes one such an easy target because you've literally given the whole world your personal details that can be used to access your information. Is that one of the ways in which cyber criminals target us?
Of course. I mean, think about it, right? My ID number is not just a number. It carries information about me. It carries my date of birth. It carries my gender. You know, right? Like, it carries a lot of information about me. So if somebody gets hold of my ID number, they already have a lot of information about me. But not only that, most of the secure sites that we access, most of the businesses that we interact with, we use ID numbers. So it means if somebody has my ID number, it's easier for them to interact with whatever site, whatever company. I mean, you've got digital banks now in South Africa. They're becoming a big thing, right? You can go on a digital bank and open an account within 5 minutes without them ever seeing my face, without me ever interacting with a human being. because all they do is they require information to identify myself. So if I have that information to identify myself as Samge, for an example, I can go open an account for you that you don't know about. I can go open a store account. I can go take out loans. I can buy cars using your name. And by the time you wake up, you've got all this debt that is under your name, but you've never actually interacted with those businesses.
And it is such a disruption to one's life when they have been a target of that type of cybercrime, such as identity theft, such as people taking out loans in their name. And it can even prevent you from getting a job because depending on the type of role you are applying for, you'll need to have good credit for that job.
And it's not even the type of role. Most employers now, when they do pre-screening for employment, would look at your credit profile because they don't want to introduce a risk into their business. And we all have this idea that people that are indebted are more at risk of committing fraud because they need to cover their debt. So if I go and check your profile on pre-employment screening and I see all the debt, then I'm more inclined not to hire you. But it's not even that. I mean, think about a few years back, right? We had issues at Home Affairs where people were getting married without knowing. People's surnames are changing, and all of that also affects you. Imagine if I'm married on Home Affairs and now I want to take a wife. I go to Home Affairs to try and register my marriage. I'm already married.
Right.
And the process of getting that marriage annulled is also a big process. It takes away my time, it brings anxiety and all of those things. So it doesn't just only affect my pocket, but it affects my life in a very negative way.
Never mind the fact that your potential wife or husband may think, is there a secret you're keeping from me?
Of course, right? I mean, we're very more inclined to believe the bad about people, right? And especially the closer you are to people and the more trust you've given to them, you're more inclined to believe something bad if it comes up. Because you think, oh, they've been hiding this from me, or they haven't told me about a part of their life. You see it in the news right now. I mean, you saw the scandal with Miss South Africa pageant,
Yes.
right? Potential stolen identity, and it wasn't her who did it. It was the parent, but now it's affecting her in a negative way.
Right. And with the rise of Twitter conversations and with the rise of people holding people to account in the court of public opinion, it's becoming even more difficult to, handle such situations privately, handle such situations in a way perhaps where you have fallen victim without people judging you to say, but you're educated, but you work in the financial institution. We know of instances where people who actually do work in banks can themselves fall victim to cybercrime.
I think sometimes we have this idea that if you know or if you work in an area, you know everything about it, right? And we don't take the time, even us who work within the financial sector, sometimes we don't take the time to educate ourselves about these things because I'm so involved in my day-to-day job that that's all I know, and I don't take time to educate myself about how can I be affected negatively by some of the things that take place. We as financial institutions look at risk in that way. We try and mitigate it, but there's only so much we can do, right? We can mitigate it in terms of our internal systems to put certain controls, to alert us for potential fraud or potential identity theft and all of that. But people actually offer up their information.
Yeah.
If, for example, if you want to know about me, you can go on Google. You'll find a whole lot of stuff about me. Why? Because I've got a profile on LinkedIn. It's a professional profile, but it offers up my information. I've got a Facebook account. It offers up my information. I've got all of these social media platforms, and I share things on them. And sometimes I share my likes and my dislikes. I share what things are my favorite things. Sometimes I buy a new car and I go and I share that. All of that information, remember, fraudsters can use to compile a profile on me, so that it becomes, they actually know me better than people that are my friends that I sit with every day, because they've got a much more comprehensive profile on me. They know what financial institutions require in order for them to get access to them in terms of a personal profile, and so they'll use that. Right. So they go there with already knowing this is what we require, for example, to get a car in some guy's name. So they'll go and source all of that information wherever they can. They'll compile it, and then they can pretend to be some guy, and none's the wiser.
You know, that is, I guess, takes more effort to commit that crime. And I want to talk about a way in which these criminals actually engage in cybercrime, in one of the easiest ways being phishing emails. Now, phishing emails is where you get an email, whether from your bank or SARS, especially during tax season, or even social media, Instagram or Facebook, saying that you need to update your password, otherwise your account will be locked. But the truth is, these emails aren't actually coming from these institutions. They'll have the logo, they'll have the language that is in very good English, and ChatGPT has helped people, you know, be able to draft perfectly looking English emails. And a lot of people fall victim to phishing emails. What are some of the tips that you can give our viewers with regards to being able to identify that this email is actually not coming from the institution it claims to be coming from?
So it's funny you say that in terms of what ChatGPT has brought, right? AI has kind of taken away some of the things that we as professionals used to use to kind of identify some of these emails, because you'd identify them with broken language, you'd identify them with just being non-cohesive. Now they can go to an AI and get a perfectly written email, right, and they send it to you. But there's always things that you can identify with. I think most of us are not vigilant in that when I receive an email, the first thing I do is I go and I open it. I don't check who it's coming from. I don't check, have I interacted with this person before? So for an example, you'd get an email that says it's coming from Stembi Sonyandeni, but when you go and look at the email address, is abc.something at something.something, right? So it's not necessarily my email address, but they've just spoofed the name to look like my name, right? So it becomes much more important that we very vigilant in dealing with our day-to-day lives. I mean, I get hundreds of emails every day. And I know the people that I chat with back and forth, so I know their email addresses, but I also know the language that they use. I know how they greet me, so sometimes you'll find weird greetings in these emails. But more than that, I think the two things that you find the most is there's a sense of urgency in these emails. Do this now or this will fall away, or do this now or you won't be able to get this. And then you'll also find that there's always a link or an attachment that you have to click on in order to do that thing. It's very dangerous to click on attachments and emails and links, because by the time you click on a link, when you go to the link, you've already given them access to your device. Your device carries a lot of your information. Your device carries a lot of your sensitive information. And even if I don't put in the information on the link that I've clicked to, I've already given them access and they're able to get that information. So be careful on the links that you click on. If you take your mouse and you hover over a link, so don't click on it, just hover over it, it will actually show you the actual site.
Oh, wow.
Right? So it'll give you the actual address of the website. So when you hover over it and you see it, but this is not a SARS website, right? Because SARS is a government institution, so it will say sars.gov. Right. So you'll say sars.co.za, for an example. It's not an official site. So all you can do is just go and hover over it. And also if it gives you like a numbered link, so it gives you directly numbers and not necessarily on the name of the institution, then rather don't go there. If you know you've got issues with SARS that you need to do, rather call them directly, or rather go and type the actual address, right? Because then you know you're going to the actual site.
Yeah. So basically, don't click on any links that come through via email. Rather, type in the full URL. If the email claims to be coming from a specific bank, rather go onto your Safari or Chrome and type in the actual bank's link and bank's URL address, rather, and then go in to see if you've got any messages from the bank with regards to what this email is saying, or phone them directly. Usually the banks will have their phone number on the back of your card. So phone them and ask, is there this kind of update, or is there something I need to update with my account? And remember to never give out your password or your PIN to anybody, not even the official bank consultants. They will never ask for your password or your PIN when engaging with you with regards to your banking. So stay vigilant with regards to email, and stay vigilant with regards to the information you are giving out on the public social media domains. Now, Stay, let's talk about scams. We've spoken about cybercrime, where we as individuals give out our information and these criminals use that information. But there are actual scams where we may fall victim to, whether it be online stokvels that look too good to be true, and then they run away with our money, as we saw recently with a big Twitter influencer. Visa recently reported that there is a new scam on the cards, which is pig butchering. And this is basically where these criminals will start a romantic relationship with you. And instead of them asking you for money directly, which we are now familiar with, they actually get you to invest in a fake cryptocurrency platform. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Have you seen that with your clients?
I don't know how many messages I get or get added to Telegram accounts or WhatsApp accounts, quick investments, this crypto. And you always get testimonials that come with them, right? People saying, look, I invested 10,000 last week. Now I'm sitting at this amount. Get rich quick schemes have always been around. What technology has done is just made it easier to do them. Because it used to be that somebody would have to go and set up an office, ask people to come and invest, and then they'll use money from later investors to pay the first ones that came through. And the more money they make, the more they can pay out to bring in more money, and then they run away. You wake up the following day, you go to an office, it's closed, it's cleaned out, there's no more signs, there used to be signs. So it used to be that people needed a physical location to be able to deal with these get-rich-quick schemes. Run a Ponzi
scheme, basically.
Now, with the advent of technology, but also with the advent of quick money exchanges and money sends from banks, I can send somebody money using their cell phone number now. I don't even need to have their account number, right? And I think all of us know how easy it is to get a SIM card on the street that you don't need to RICA, right? So I might think I'm speaking to a specific person, but I'm speaking to somebody else. And what then they'll do is, so first of all, you gave an example of that celebrity, right? We've got a lot of celebrities now that you've actually never seen. There's nothing behind them except who's following them, right? And they can use that status to actually bring people to them. And it's much more trustworthy if it's somebody with a kind of profile that is known to say, give me your money, you'll get this much out. Investments works in this way. There's never a quick fix, right? Because you put your money in, that money needs to go and be invested in an instrument. An instrument will give you a return, and part of that return is what comes and is interest to you. So even with cryptocurrency, with Forex, you had a lot of Forex schemes where people gave a lot of money for people to trade on their behalf. First of all, it's illegal for somebody to trade on somebody else's behalf unless they are a registered FSP. Most of us don't check that. I just see my friend is trading, is making money, I'm gonna give him my money, he's gonna trade for me and give me a return. But if my friend loses my money, I have no recourse. Because he is not an FSP, I can't go to any government regulator and say, I invested my money with this person and it went away. Unlike when I invest with an investment house or a bank, if my money gets lost, I have recourse.
Yeah, but sometimes investments do lose money because that's the nature of the market, and we don't have recourse in that. If a specific company's shares go down, I don't have recourse to that. We saw with Steinhoff, that a lot of people lost a lot of money, and it was tough luck. And the people that were involved were not even held to account. And we know that we had one of the leading executives actually commit suicide, even that is actually up for debate. And it seems that these sophisticated institutions do manage to get away with losing our money with the promise that we're protected, but we're not.
So that's true, right? But I mean, look at the frequency of that happening. Because a traded company, for an example, there's a lot of compliance that it has to go through. There's a lot of regulators that look at them. You've got auditors that actually audit their books. That's why when a company falls, for an example, not only that company becomes held liable, but everyone that had an impact. So auditors will be questioned how they audited the books. So you have that kind of thing. So that's why it's much more safe. I'm not saying it's a foolproof plan. Investment is not a foolproof plan, but it's much more safer. And you have instruments that kind of deal with your appetite, right? The problem with social media and these stokvel investments is that you're trusting one person to take care of everyone, and there's no one that he or she reports to. There's no one who can hold them liable on how they are using your investments. And we saw this a lot with the cryptocurrency movement that was taking place a few years ago, where people were investing in these crypto investors who were supposed to give these huge returns. And then down the line, this crypto investor is showing you big houses and expensive cars. And what people didn't know was that these investors were using their monies to buy these assets instead of taking their monies and investing them and getting a return. So the established investment houses, the established companies are much more safer because they have someone that they need to report to. They have someone that is constantly checking, are they doing things according to plan? Whereas an individual who is claiming to be making huge returns by themselves without being registered with any regulator, there's no recourse. That's what I mean when I say there's no recourse. There's no one actually holding them liable and accountable.
But Te, I am ugogo sitting in a rural village, or I am a young person struggling to get a job, and I don't understand zonke lezi zinto ezishoyo about regulators, about recourse. I see someone from my township, from my village making money. I see my neighbor has made money. And I'm of the belief that all these things of you must be registered or you must have this is really just abelungu trying to keep us out of the economy. So explain to me why that is not the case. Make me understand why it's better for me to be investing with these big companies where in actual fact, we don't even see people make money that changes their lives. And I don't go with these opportunities where I see people being able to buy, whether it be groceries, whether it be school fees, being able to pay school fees, whether it be buying a car or buying a house. Genzenjani, like, make me believe you.
So, it's a difficult one in that, not everyone has access to these institutions. I mean, if you look at South Africa, for an example, we have a huge population that is unbanked. And it's very difficult to secure my money unless I put it under a mattress and nobody comes into my house and steals it. And remember, for a scammer, in order to make money, I need to put up a front that there is money to be made. So I will have photos or buy an expensive car. I will show off my wealth so that people can have some level of trust.
But I've got examples of my neighbor or my friend from down the road who actually got money back from the so-called investment. So, in that case, what do you
So it's exactly what I said in the beginning. So how these illegal pyramid schemes would work is whoever gets in first will get some level of return so that it can show to others that there is a return to be gotten. But remember, it's called a pyramid for that specific reason, right? Somebody at the top, and there's more people at the bottom. So the more people I can get at the bottom, the more the person at the top will get. But it will get to a point where it's unsustainable. And when it gets to the point where it's unsustainable, somebody would run away with the money because they've already paid a few people, they've made more than what they've paid out, and then they run away. And that's what really scams are about. It's about how much can I make before it becomes difficult to continue to make money.
To make it. Well, I hope nizwile lapha makhaya. I hope you've heard liutlwile gore. These get rich quick schemes are usually something you need to be very careful about, because you could also lose a lot of money. And yes, with your normal investments, maybe investing in a share portfolio, you can lose money. But when your money is in the bank, when your money is in unit trusts, you won't usually lose that money. And if you do, and if there's been fraud by those big companies, then at least you know that you can go to the ombuds, you can go to the Financial Sector Conduct Authority, and you can lay a complaint to make sure that either you get your money back or those people that conducted that fraud are held accountable. Now, finally, let's talk about fraud in itself. We've spoken about cybercrime. We've spoken about scams. Let's talk about fraud, especially around those inheritance emails, where you get an email saying, I am a lawyer, or I am a banker, or I am the person who has received this inheritance, but I need you to send some money for us to release this inheritance. And you'll either get that money if you are named as the person inheriting this money, or they'll say we can share this money because this inheritance has been unclaimed. Ted, talk to us as someone who does work in an industry that deals with inheritances. And we actually do know there are millions that are left unclaimed in terms of inheritances. How do I know that this is not God answering my prayer?
You know what, we live in a very difficult time where most of us are under financial pressure. Most of us need some relief. So it's very quick to overlook certain obvious things when somebody approaches me with the promise of getting money payout, right? I mean, if somebody approaches me and says, you had an uncle who stayed in the UK, chances are my parents would have told me about it, or somebody in the family would have spoken about him. And if I've never had anybody in the family speak about him, chances are I don't really have that uncle. And this is where I always get kind of driven off by how these scammers approach us. It's always, you need to pay in order to get. And if you're telling me I must pay you 10,000 to get 10 million, why are you not able to take the 10,000 from the 10 million and then send me the balance? Right? It's those types of little things that, because it looks good, I don't actually question it enough. And you learn when you see a lot of these frauds take place, and it's very sad when you see somebody who's lost money because of this. You learn that vigilance and education about financial education and educating yourself about some of these schemes, some of these frauds is very important, because it helps you to just be vigilant in when you approach with this thing. I mean, think about it, right? Almost every week, I get an SMS that I've won a competition that I never entered. How do I win if I haven't entered?
But what if I have entered a competition?
So when you enter a competition, most competitions will have terms and conditions. I know we don't read terms and conditions most of the time, but the terms and conditions are there to protect you also. Because they will tell you, this is how we'll communicate to you when you've won, right? Most of us don't read those terms and conditions, so I've entered a competition and then somebody comes and tells me I've won, I'm running, right? And what you'll see most of the time is companies have specific numbers that they use. So you see when you get calls for insurance, or when you get calls for car insurance and life insurance, there's certain specific numbers that are linked to companies. It's just as easy as going to the company website and checking your contact us information, because it will have all the numbers that will that you can use to contact them.
I hear you. What about maybe if I've been to a specific prophet's church and I hear my neighbor or my friend or my brother or sister in the Lord saying that the prophet touched me, and then a week later I got an email saying that I've won so much money or I've inherited so much money, and I also go up to be prayed for, laid hands on, and I get this email. how do I see that this one is probably fraud? Or how do I know that maybe that is actually a false testimonial? Because we think that these scams only sit online, but these scams can also happen and are rising in the church fraternity.
Desperation is a very difficult thing to deal with, because if I'm desperate, I'd fall for anything, right? If I'm desperate, I'm being told people go to the church and they get their things. I'm gonna go there with that hope because there's people who've testified that they've gotten something. That's why I say vigilance becomes important. For me, it's always verify, verify, verify. Whatever you get, verify it, right? If a reputable company will use an 083 number to call me, I've never seen that. It's usually a scam. There's nothing wrong with you picking up the phone, calling the company back and say, I've received this WhatsApp or I've received this email, is it from you? Because scammers have actually become even more stringent now that they will call you and on the name it will say the name of the company, but the actual number doesn't belong to the company. And they'll tell you, look, this fraud that's taking place in your account, we need to stop it quickly. We'll send you an OTP, give it to us, and we'll stop the fraud. Banks and all financial institutions usually send out communication to their clients in terms of, in the form of SMSs, of emails, where they will tell you, we will never ask you for this. We will never request you for this. If you've got apps, banking apps, for example, when you log onto your banking app, your landing page will tell you, we will never do this. We will never, those things become important. That's why we need to educate ourselves on these things so that we know what might happen.
Yeah. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, bo mama, bo baba, bo meli, bo ntate, you've heard it here around being very careful with your money and being very careful not to get scammed. What we've discussed is cybercrime, and that you must be very careful with the emails that ask you to give out your personal information or to click this link to update something or to download an attachment. Please be careful. Rather, phone the bank to check or phone whoever it's claiming to be, whether it's SARS, whether it's your insurance, to check, did you send me this email, and use the official number. We also spoke about scams and we said, please trust your instinct. Trust your gut, and also just think to yourself, could I be getting an inheritance from someone I don't know? Does that make sense? And finally, with fraud, we know that identity theft is on the rise. Make sure, please, that you're not putting out your phone number, your ID number, your address, your account number on Facebook or Twitter or anything like that. If you are tweeting or commenting on a bank's status or your insurance status and saying, I need help with this, rather get a reference number or ask them to call you, or rather you call them directly and then only give out your personal information. But never, 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 I'm asking you, never put your account number or your phone number or your ID number on social media. And with that, I want to thank Ustembiso from the Liberty Group for joining us and really giving us information that can help us to stay safe and to look out for these new ways that these criminals are accessing our information in order to access our money. And I would like to say to you, please, please, please stay vigilant. Open your eyes. Make sure that even if you see a neighbor or a friend or a family member making money quickly, you ask yourself, but how did you make this money? And the advice I always give my clients is ask yourself, is there a product being sold yini le dayisiwe for us to make this money, or is there a service being offered yini le yenziwe for us to make this money? I hope you enjoyed that video and learned so much about how these scams, this fraud, the cybercrime works, and how you can protect yourself to make sure that you never lose money to these nasty criminals. Stay tuned for more videos where you can learn about how to protect your money, secure your future right here during Money Smart Week South Africa 2024.